Everyone, it's Aspen Luzier. Before my husband jumps on board with the Brenton on Tour coffee podcast, I'd love to take a moment and talk a little bit about Rebel for a Change. Let's just start off the conversation by saying addiction doesn't stop because we're silent. Rebel for a Change is a nonprofit movement which empowers individuals walking alongside their loved ones battling addiction to break the silence and find community. I mean, that's huge, right? Think about the individuals who are actually suffering with substance abuse. You hear so much about their journeys, so much about their recovery, but what about their support system? What about their family members? What about me? What about even possibly you? There are so many of us who've been living in silence for far too long, and we suffer right alongside of them. So the mission of Rebel is to amplify this conversation, to allow others to realize they're not alone loving somebody in active addiction and towards recovery. But taking this conversation a bit deeper, Rebel's been given the opportunity to launch a platform in early 2020, which will allow individuals to connect with a champion who can help them along their journey and what this journey looks like, and to better understand it so they don't lose sight of themselves while trying to help their loved one. If you want to hear more about what we do and how you can get involved, head over to our website, rebelforachange.com. Okay, now settle in, pour a cup of your favorite coffee, and enjoy my husband Ray Luzier and his buddy Brent Fitz on the Brenton on Tour podcast.
Oh, no, I can't drink coffee late at night. It keeps me up.
First time!
You're listening to the Brenton on Tour Coffee Cast, brought to you by things that make coffee, people who make coffee, people who love coffee, and maybe just coffee. You have no idea who he is, but he's on the search for the best coffee in the world. So pour a cup, grab a seat on the john, and maybe, just maybe, you'll stop drinking shitty coffee. It's the Brenton on Tour Coffee Cast with your host, that guy you don't know. Here's BD.
Brand new KXM, brand new Toque. You, my friends, you listeners, are going to be spoiled to death this week and potentially next week, depending on how long we take this thing. I got Ray Luzier. I got Brent Fitz. Gentlemen, welcome to the Brenton on Tour podcast. How you doing?
What's up?
Hey,
Ray.
Donnelly.
Hey there, Fitzy. What's up?
I love it. I can't believe we're finally getting to talk on a podcast about coffee. And even better that I'm with my dear friend Ray, who we were just about to say we hadn't seen each other in a while, but it's good to connect on a podcast nonetheless.
Absolutely. I think it might have been Vegas. I was thinking about it. We were talking earlier. I think I saw you in Vegas somewhere in a lobby.
Yeah, most likely. That's how it is on tour now. Hey, like none of us actually see a lot of each other in the most normal place. Like, hey, we'll go down the street from our houses for coffee. No, you run into someone in the faraway places. I mean, I do know, Brent Donnelly, you and I had two little run-ins. We did coffee in Vienna, Austria a couple months ago, right? At about 3 a.m. And then I think a month before that, we were both in Perth, Australia. And you were on two different tours at that time, or were you on Rod Stewart? I forget.
No, I was on Lauren Hill in Perth, and then I was on Rod Stewart in Vienna. So
yeah, you're a busy guy. You're catching up to Ray and I now for your air miles.
And for our friend and for our listeners who live in a hole, part of this journey that I'm on is obviously trying to find the best coffee in the world, but also bringing great coffee people on, whether it be baristas, whether it be, coffee makers, roasters, like we had Jeremy on, and I've got, Tim Wendelboe coming up. There's some really great guests with great stories, but this is drummer explosion talk here, my friends. I've got two of the busiest, best drummers in the world of rock. Ray, tell our friends all the bands that you're playing with, which is probably 14 right now. How many bands are you playing with right now?
We're the two best drummers on this call right now.
Yeah, you certainly are, because the guy talking to you stopped drumming about 10 years ago. So
there you go. Yeah,
but you are a drummer, so there we go.
That's
three,
right.
Three drummers.
It is a drummer thing.
Three drummers walk into a bar. No, I'm just the whole drum slut thing kind of went away years ago. I've been really focused on Korn. That's my my main band. Is October starts my 13th year, and very fortunate and lucky to still be playing at this level. I'm really stoked. Brent, you just got off the tour with me with Alice in Chains, and that was a huge success. And I just couldn't believe the turnouts. What a fun package. Everyone was great. No egos, attitudes, none of that. It was just great rock every night. And I have a side band called KXM with Doug Pinnick and George Lynch, which I'm such big fans of both of theirs. And we're on our third record right now called Circle of Dolls, and Korn, The Nothing just came out, and KXM, Circle of Dolls. I'm very happy with both those releases.
It's been a pleasure being out there on tour and watching you play every day, buddy. It's been a real blast. And I realized that I got out of the drumming game at the perfect time, because holy shit. It was great watching you bring the metal every night. Fitzy, tell the world what's going on, man.
Well, let's just back up quick. I watch Ray's Instagram every day for his live awesome, is it how do you film GoPro or something behind the kit? It's the best. And I actually was talking to the Sabian guys the other day. I go, fuck, Ray's Instagram is so awesome to watch, because it's just such a big, exciting spectacle. Those songs and the kit looks awesome and sounds awesome. And so
thanks, man.
It's like my drum porn of the day. I wake up and I'm on Instagram and I'm like, hey, where's Ray today? So awesome.
No, it's just GoPro stuff, and it's sometimes just straight up iPhone. I'm not fancy at all, No,
it looks awesome.
Thank you.
Love it. Yeah. Hey, drummers, we're always inspired by each other. I find it's a kindred spirit, and drummers are, we always seem to feed off each other. And I can't speak for, sometimes guitar players or singers, but, I'm definitely a drummer. I'm a musician, but a drummer, by design, and seems like we all, it's just great to always have that same kind of spirit.
You're a way better guitar player than I am, though, as a drummer.
Well, I did start out on piano and melody instruments, and I defaulted into drums basically because of, in the neighborhood, everybody played guitar, and we were all into Kiss. It was in the late 70s, and it was the band that everyone wanted to mimic, but there was everyone wanted to, spit blood and be Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley. And I was like, well, I guess someone's got to round out the band. And I always loved Peter Criss too. But so I just became a drummer by design of the neighborhood, okay, Brent's the drummer in the Kiss tribute band. So here we are like 30, 40 years later, and I'm still the drummer. But yeah, I've been playing bass most recently with Toque, my other band. So a lot of people just in the last little while are looking at internet stuff and hearing the new song, and they're like, well, wait a minute, Brent, you're not the drummer in the band? I just saw you with Slash on tour. I'm like, no, I'm the bass player.
And I think that's so rad, because Shane Gallus is a really good buddy of mine. He was kind of a student of mine at MI, although he taught me as much as I taught him. But I saw you and him standing in a photo, and I'm like, wait a minute. Why they have a double drumming thing? You're rad.
What's up with that? That Shane had to fill in for me recently because I had a detached retina on the last couple of weeks. And it was so great that, the call came into Shane, who's in my other band. And it's like, how it is. The apple never falls from the tree. And next thing you know, Shane's out playing with Slash, filling in and doing an awesome job too. So totally. See, again, kindred spirits, all drummers looking out for each other. And
most of us don't have the whole ego attitudes thing going on. I don't know what's up. I mean, I don't know. We're more of like a drumming brother community,
Yeah, no, it's pretty obvious. By the way, so I haven't tried the Korn coffee yet, but I know I know a guy. I think I need to check out some Java.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm so happy with it, and Brent did not too long ago with our partner. He did a podcast with Jeremy Guersey, and he really did such a great job with it. And you know how it is. A lot of people have coffee companies and wine companies and even whiskey and whatever, but it's to get the right kind of bean, and especially when you're coffee freaks like we are, it takes a certain special prospects involved. And man, Jeremy really did a good job.
Yeah, I just Googled and was reading up on a whole bunch of stuff yesterday from him, because I had just seen the connection. And I thought, well, obviously this guy knows his stuff. And then I realized he's been doing this for a long time and has a whole connection to. Now, is all your stuff based in LA? Is that where all the roasting and his stuff is based?
No, he's actually got a big old roasting facility in Vegas. And that's his main hub. But he spends a lot of time in LA. And the guy was Tom Cruise's personal barista for over a decade. I mean, like you say to yourself, yeah, how could you be someone that big, making him coffee and smoothies, but that's how good the guy is, and Cameron Diaz, and he's got a bunch of people on his roster. But
so basically, you have your own barista now.
yeah, totally, yeah. But
it was me for at least 10 shows because I got the lever presso, and we started making espressos out of Korn coffee, so it was fun.
Yeah, Brett would hit me up like anytime. Hey man, you want some? I'm like, dude, you don't even have to ask. Just bring it on. He's like, well, you got a show in 2 hours. I'm like, that's fine. I need it even more now.
So, hey, when you get up in the morning and you start your day, are you doing coffee in a hotel room before you even leave the hotel room, or are you like you go to it? What's your like daily routine?
Well, it's kind of, Brent was helping me out. Like he would text me like, hey, 3 blocks from the hotel. We stayed in the same hotels a lot, and he was nice enough to say, hey, come to this one. And I was so busy on this past tour doing, promoting 2 records and just stuff at home and Skyping kids and whatever. But I do like to go to the local places and really check them out. You'll rarely catch me at a Starbucks or anything like that. I love checking out local. So, but if it's a decent coffee, like there's some places have coffee bean pods and stuff like that. I'll make a cup just to get me going, just because I need that smell and I need the taste of it,
I think the best scenario is not so much when we're in America, but over in Europe when they have those espresso machines already in the room. It's a little more, it's geared for us coffee guys. And I find that in America, I get Yelp going on my phone, and I'm out the door, and I try to find the closest, best looking reviewed. And I look for, they have a La Marzocco machine, or they got a Sinesso, and I beeline it for that place. But yeah, Europe is way better for coffee or Australia or, Japan. Most of those places are dialed in.
Yeah. We still need to get it together over here. Help us out, Brent.
There's a new machine that I'm discovering everywhere. It's called the Slayer. I don't know if it's new, but I'm seeing it everywhere. And Slayer is coming on. It's coming on strong. I'm in Jacksonville right now, and I've been doing a coffee tour all day. I got brought over to a place called Flamingo, and they insisted that I try out this espresso at their place, which is a Slayer machine, and it was amazing.
Nice.
So backing it up a little bit, Fitzy was the first real major coffee guy that I met. And then you were telling me, hey, you always want to go into and check out their espresso machine because then that the owner loves coffee and that they're investing in it and the whole thing. And so now I'm finding that I'm researching the cafe, sure, but then I'm also poking around to see what they're working on for gear. And I'm finding that that's part of the journey now. It's going like, oh, they got a shit machine. So they just clearly just threw it up thinking people will drink anything. So.
Or God forbid they have something that has buttons you press that says latte and all. It's just those are the worst,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I found that just going to enough places, I started to see the similarities of like the places I like the most. Oh, seems like there's always a La Marzocco machine. That's the wording I'm seeing in front of me as I'm waiting for my cup. I'm like, oh, okay, good. And then I actually got I have to admit, my education, I've probably been into being like seriously researching and traveling the world with, intent to discover more things about the beans and people and different places and countries. It's been over a decade, but it hasn't been my entire life because growing up where I'm from in small town Canada, we drank filtered coffee. Actually, it started with going to my grandparents' place and we would drink instant, like Sanka or something with tons of milk and sugar. And that was my introduction to coffee. But I always liked the culture and the idea of socially drinking coffee at a coffee shop. And, you spend enough hours, and I'm sure you did, Ray, growing up, in where are you from again?
A really small town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And you probably drank brewed coffee in a small,
It was Maxwell House at best.
Yeah. And that's just what we grew up on. And maybe that's, from our, when in those days, it's a little more common now to have better coffee shops available and stuff. But in my growing up, it was very simple. And then as I started to expand by having the luxury of going to travel and play in different countries and continents and go experience things, just food and coffee and everything, then I just started to realize, hey, you go to Italy a few times and you realize, oh, it's next level here, or Australia.
Yeah.
And then I started to educate myself, but it didn't really happen just by being in the States or something touring in Canada. Once I started to travel the planet a bit more and have that, that special chance to do that. And now I'm just kind of like, I'm not a highbrow coffee expert by any means. And actually the way I got really educated fast, because I was ordering latte after latte after latte, and Derek Sharp, is my coffee guru, and he sings, he's the singer in the Guess Who. And he's not the original singer, but he's a dear friend of mine from Toronto, and he has a La Marzocco machine in his kitchen, and he has educated me more than anybody on the planet. And he started to tell me, he goes, "Why are you having lattes all the time?" Actually, the reason we did some touring together, and that was it. We were on these coffee quests, and he started to tell me about, he goes, "You should try a cortado." And I was like, well, I don't know what a cortado is. And the second I got hip to the cortado, it changed my palate and my whole idea of experiencing coffee, because I always thought espresso was a bit harsh. Like I always wanted to, color it a little bit with some milk and a latte. I was always cool with not drinking it with sugar. But then I switched to the cortado, and I was like, that's my benchmark now. So he got me into the cortado thinking, and I go to every coffee shop now with the intent of like, well, if I get them to make me a cortado, I should be able to get through and, really decide if hey, if this was a good experience, good barista.
You should explain that to the people that might not know what that is. You
mean the cortado and what it is? Well, it's basically a 1-to-1, as much espresso as there is milk. So it's a smaller drink. It's a very much, it's like a shot. It can often come in a shot glass, and the amount of coffee, it's strong, and some people might want to add sugar, but I've trained myself to get off sugar and enjoy coffee just for its true form. And sometimes I'll enjoy just an espresso. If I go to Starbucks, what I'll have a doppio espresso. If I'm running through the airport, and I'm kind of like, I'm not going to have that venti, double shot latte thing. That's just it's a milk drink. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a milk drink.
Agreed.
So,
yeah.
Hey, where do you live in? Have you ever been to 8th and Roast in Nashville?
Yes. I'm down in Franklin, so I'm a little bit south, but I do go into the city quite a bit. And there's a lot of bean shops opening up now in the last couple of years. I have been to that. It's really good. There's definitely some places. Too many people are moving here now, so things are popping up everywhere.
So Ray, what's your coffee, like daily coffee journey like, Brent? What are you guys, are you waking up? And I know, Brent, you asked him about waking up and going to, starting your day with it. But on your days off, are you researching like I am? I'm trying to find the best coffee places in the world. Are you guys doing the same? Or is it sort of like whatever's there, we're going to do? Or are you making it part of your routine? Like, because I know, Brent, you are. I know Todd touched on it in his interview. So
I definitely will venture out, and I'll get either a runner at the venue to take me somewhere, or, I always ask the locals at the hotel concierge or somewhere to find out. Like Fitz was saying before, in Europe, you don't have to look far. I mean, there's your hotel lobby coffee will blow away most American coffees, but I definitely am searching for that. I found that Korn's fortunate enough to stay in some nice hotels, and a lot of times the bean there is straight up pretty good. I'll test the bean getting an espresso. I can tell a lot just by taking a sip of whatever the bean is, and that'll tell me if I'm going back there or not, kind of thing. But but I'll definitely Google, and I don't get into as much as you do, Brent. But it's I'm definitely I keep forgetting you guys are both named Brent. So when I address that, it seems like I'll say Fitz and Donnelly from now on. It's like the law firm of Fitz and Donnelly. But what about you?
Great coffee.
But what about Hey Ray, but you guys are ahead of me. Like, you're in the business of coffee. I'm in the business of right now enjoying and you guys are actually selling coffee, and so that's a whole other thing. Is that going on tour? Are people able to buy? Like, if I went to the show, am I buying coffee there, or do I buy it online? Or wow,
yes, we will trip you until you buy a dark. Now, we definitely sell them at the venues, and we're selling them online. It's that whole thing where we're pretty new at it, so we sold quite a bunch of bags. I don't want to give the numbers out, but I'm pretty impressed with how we're doing with just fan responses and online, on the Korn website. You can go to kornwebstore.com and buy it there. And we just released a brand new blend called Korn Wired blend, and it kind of takes off from the theme of the Nothing record with the dude hanging there in the strings. If you look at the wired coffee bag, it looks just like that. It's my absolute favorite blend right now. I mean, I'm not just saying that because I'm part of the company. It blew me away. Like the first time that our partner Jeremy Guerzy brought it to us, and he really takes his time. You're asking me if I'm educated on I'll be honest, I don't know a ton. I know that I love, what I love kind of thing. But Jeremy is a guy that gets really scientific with it. And our whole thing about our beans is the beans that are roasted they never hit the basin of the roaster. So a lot of that burnt taste you taste at some coffee places is because of that. It's the beans sit on the roaster, and some people like that taste. I mean, people are so used to Starbucks now, and it's when you taste someone like he's so artistic and creative, Jeremy Guerzy, that when you taste his beans and you taste his coffee, you're just like your eyes cross. It's so amazing. You're like, why is this so good? And he's like, if you just take a little pride in what you do and really focus in on what beans you're blending and how you're roasting them, and if you just take the time, that's how you get amazing results. And it takes a shoddy coffee company to a extremely high end one, so I'm really happy we partnered with him, because me and Monkey are basically the big coffee drinkers. Fieldy will have a little bit here and there. Head hates coffee. John can't stand it. So it's kind of funny because we're at the tasting for the first round in Vegas, and Head would be there for the interviews, and he'd go running outside, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I had to get some fresh air, man. It smells like coffee in here. I'm like,
I love the smell of coffee.
I'm like,
Fitzy, they're set up in Vegas, so I got to make sure you get over there and see Jer, because I told him about you guys living there, and and he's all about having you guys in to check out what he's doing over there, which is really cool, and it's a really great style of, as Ray said, it's a great method of roasting. That's also really great for the environment too.
Yeah, totally, full blown. Yep.
So it sounds like a Korn wired blend with a lever presso. Sounds like a
yes, go-to. Yes. And I just made a French press this morning of it, and I haven't done that yet with the new blend. And I was pretty blown away because I just made the straight up coffee pot in the last couple of days. I've been off tour, and I'm like, wow, I'm impressed with that. So I'm going to French press it, and then I want to, that we're trying to, the big thing these days is the Keurig, and it's kind of to someone like Jeremy that's high end like that. He's like, don't insult me with your Keurig things. And
I know,
but unfortunately in doctors' offices, dentists, everywhere you go, there's a Keurig machine sitting there in the lobby. And what people do, it takes 8 seconds to make yourself a cup. And that's, so, we're getting beat up a lot about that lately. If we're going to go that format, I don't know that it will, but.
Well, and again, Keurig is very popular in America, but not so much when you go to the rest of the world. So I get it. I mean, and I actually have made many Keurigs coffees in my time at studios and whatnot.
Sure.
But I love telling people, if the average person who might not even care about coffee specifically, but I say, hey, if you're gonna actually be at home and instead of brewing it with a regular Mr. Coffee type pot with a filter, I always tell people you should just go buy the $20 Target, go to get a coffee Bodum, one of those, just a French press, and you'll be so happy. And they're like, really, French press? I'm like, yeah. It's funny how that's not as common, because we always put a French press on our rider. For like, we'll have if there's brewed coffee thing, they'll be there backstage. Like I've been out the last year with Slash, and every day I see there's always a French press there. So somebody was nice enough. Maybe I requested it a while ago. Hey, can you have a French press backstage? But that's always great. It's just, you've got to boil some water, a kettle. That's not hard to get, with a nice, already ground. And if you can grind your beans at home, even with a better grinder, then, don't buy that crappy $50 grinder. Buy the Encore, $200 item, and you're in the game. And just with a French press, and you're good. Get some good beans, and then just grind them. Get whole beans, and then grind them up right before you put them in your French press, and that's better than anything. Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's definitely. I need to do that on our rider because we just have a juicer on there right now. I need that's. You just gave me a good tip for the next tour.
Yeah, I think every band should have a French press and a kettle, and then ask for some local beans or something that are either, if they have to be pre-ground, fine, because you're not necessarily going to be able to grind them backstage with a good grinder unless they have access. But that to me is like the best thing, and it's great because I've been poaching all these great little bags of coffee if they don't get used, and I put them in my road case, and then after a run of dates, I go home and I'm like, man, I just got a whole bunch of beans. Like I had this massive, one of my dear friends from Italy brought me some stuff that was, freshly ground from Verona. That was one of our last shows a couple months ago. And that's what I'm using at home here right now is like, these beans are just beautiful and heaven. So rich and just flavorful. And so I'm at home here and I'm just French pressing. That's it. I'm just having my own party at home here. And I haven't had to actually go down the street to any of the my favorite, local coffee shops, because I've been just brewing coffee at home. Yeah. Actually trying to change from, because I've been around the world, as are you, in all these places. I know, Brent Donnell, you've already been to 3 places today. I get it, but I'm kind of digging it home.
I'm absolutely caffeinated. And actually, the funny part is, Ray, you were mentioning Maxwell House. Jacksonville is the home of Maxwell House.
Amazing.
So how about that? So there's all that going on. And the guys that I was with today were like, hey, we got to try to get you a tour over at Maxwell House. And I'm like, all right, well, then let's just add that to the list, I guess, of things to do.
You're putting Maxwell House in the Chemex and French press.
Right. And which is crazy. Now, have you guys ever, I know it's been a while since you guys have spoken, but have you crossed over on gigs this year at all? Or have you guys sort of
no.
Fitz, you're playing Friday, Ray, you're playing Saturday or something like that? Or have you guys really just kind of crossing?
That's unfortunate. I remember a couple years ago, Fitz, there was a show that we were pulling up that you guys were on stage, because I remember hearing this. It was right in the middle of Sweet Child of Mine. I'm thinking, who is killing that? Because it sounds amazing, and of course, your singer is one of the best out there. And I just remember going, I didn't know they were playing today, and I ran over and caught the last 3 songs. But that every once in a while that'll happen on a festival or something. But we haven't toured together. No. But the festivals are great. And Brent, you've been over now to the European festivals, right? And seen, or if you haven't, Ray and I have just
it's proper rock, my friends.
Yeah, I mean, and they do have them in the States, but the European festivals are just next level. Oh, yeah. And there's and the funny thing is, you do a festival, and then 2 days later you end up in another country at another festival, and you're like, oh, high five, how's it going? You see each other backstage again, and then you get to play to anywhere from 50,000 to 100 and something thousand people at these amazing European festivals, and it just sort of depends on what bands are touring that, cycle on their records. And so we just did an album cycle, and you guys have been on one, and we just didn't end up our summer festival dates didn't, I guess, just we weren't on the same festivals or the same days or something. And that's just the way it is. So
the way it goes. I mean, we did that Soundwaves thing in Australia a few years back, and
that was.
Yeah. And there was a neighbor of mine. I lived in LA. I guess it's 5 years ago, because I've been in Nashville for 5 years now. But that I saw a neighbor of mine there on all those shows that I never see in LA, because you just, LA, you don't see anyone. So it's all of a sudden you're on these festivals, and it's like a big family reunion, because you see all your buds. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it is awesome. And speaking of, you said Australia. So when people ask me about coffee and where is the best coffee in the world, I don't even hesitate. My answer is always Australia. And I mean, as far as a culture and the entire nation, doesn't matter if you go to in the airport, in a restaurant, or just a quick little kiosk, it's always good. And everybody knows how to make a good coffee there. If it's a flat white or a long black, or, even Starbucks has incorporated the flat white into their menu, which is, from that part of the world. And I always ask, people in coffee shops, not that I'm quizzing them or something, but I'm like a lot of people think, well, it's got to be Italy. That's the best, that they must know their coffee. And yes, they do. But in my experiences down there, that's Melbourne is my coffee city. That's my top spot in the world. And it's up for debate, but I'll say that place is my favorite.
I'm with you on that. It's definitely in my top. I love, there's something, I go to Japan more than any other country. I've been there probably 35, 36 times, only because I teach at music schools over there and I tour a lot. And so for a while there, I was going 3 times a year. So I really, really got to know many I felt like a local there after, that's definitely one of my top places. We just played it in Turkey about 2 years ago, and that made my eyes cross. I've never, you always hear about Turkish coffee, but
oh my gosh, I love it. Oh my God,
dude, I was like, literally like, I just stood still for a good 30 seconds. Like, what just happened to my brain because what I just tasted. So it takes a lot to make me do that from all the coffees throughout the world, so those are definitely my top 2, I'd say, with Australia.
Yeah, I agree. Any sort of Mediterranean countries where you can get just a strain of a Turkish version, in the little cup, the little pot that they serve it in. And usually it's pretty sweet, but you can sometimes get it cut with half the sweetener in it. But I like anything, if it's not going to make me cross-eyed, I can't drink it. I don't like weak coffee. I love Cuban coffee. I love in Japan, it's pretty strong. It's good. It's like the intention is, you're going to get, it's going to wake you up. And I drink coffee all day long. So I'm not really particular about yes, I drink coffee in the morning and it's just my go-to before I even make a sentence. But, later in the day, I always enjoy coffee, and even later at night, I have no problem with it. And so I love drinking coffee in different places. Like maybe I'm crazy, but I'll drink a Turkish coffee at 10 at night and deal with the consequences.
Okay. You're nuts. Cause I'm a mass insomnia. I have really bad insomnia. So, and I don't know if it's the caffeine or what, I just don't sleep, or I sleep in 1 or 2 hour increments and I get up, and it's really annoying lifestyle, but so I try not to drink coffee past 6, just in case that's part of the culprit.
Unless you walk past my office, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you walk past my office, it's you ever see that, it's like that scene, you walk past the office and then you kind of you walk past and then 8 seconds later, you kind of walk back and then peek in going, what's going on in here? And then I'm like, all right, I guess I'm breaking the lever presso out and here we go.
It never fails too. Donnelly's always every time I pass your office, it's always no matter what morning, noon or night, it's like, you're like, hey, Ray, hey, have you tried this one? Check this out. Hey, check this. And it's you'll be in the middle of doing all this business corporate stuff. And all of a sudden it's no. This is really important. This bean right here. Check out what I'm doing. And you should explain what you made with the cup thing in catering. What the heck was that all about? You know what I'm talking about?
There was I was traveling with the lever presso. I was making the portable espressos. I also had an AeroPress I'm traveling with.
Yeah.
Which I was making. I think that's what you're referring to. So Fitzy knows about the Tim Wendelbo place in Oslo, Norway, which is renowned as the top AeroPress cafe in the world.
Which I recently got to attend and go to, thanks to Brent Donnelly.
It's the best. This is the insanity, by the way, Fitz, because you were the coffee guy, but here we are, directing you around the world. But it's the AeroPress, which is, basically people feel it's one of the things that makes one of the best coffees in the world. And you can make it any style. I learned how to make an espresso inside of it. With one of those old spice jars I was experimenting around. But one of the first days that we had a new shipment of Korn coffee, and I think it was in West Palm, Florida, actually, Ray.
Yeah.
I actually was making the Korn coffee with the AeroPress. And so Ray was just sitting down visiting with his friends and whatever it was. And I just kept dropping cups of coffee in front of him.
So good.
So I don't know if you had a click track going that night, but I'm pretty sure you blew it out. We just kept blowing coffee out, just giving him coffee all, just try this one and try this one. And
yeah.
And then Head would come over and he'd be like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm making AeroPress. He's like, if I loved coffee, I'd have some, but just give it to Ray. So I gave it to Ray. So Ray just kept getting the AeroPress all the time. And it was just a funny gag. And then it would suck because, if I had actual work to do, I'd be in the process of making the AeroPress and then, oh, can I have one? Oh, can I have one? And then it just started,
I still don't get the whole thing of people that don't like coffee at all, or I don't really understand it. But then again, everyone's got their own taste. And I'm one of those weirdos that's never done a drug in my life. I never really got that either. So
me too, Ray.
Hey.
I maybe we're rare, but the thing is, coffee's promoting good rock and roll because it's a positive stimulant. And to me, it's like, you want to have an exciting rock and roll concert. And to me, having a coffee before a show is a perfectly good excuse to have a good show. So I make sure I have a coffee.
Don't do drugs, kids. Just drink coffee.
That's right.
I've touched on it a few times in the podcast, but I'm only, a year and a half in. So I was one of those coffee assholes that never had coffee before, which, I listed in that first article I wrote about which coffee asshole are you? That question is for both of you. Which coffee asshole are you? Are you the coffee snob, or are you just like, what would you deem yourself as a coffee connoisseur? An asshole? What kind of asshole do you think you are?
Go ahead, Fitz.
Well, I will say this only because when I look back at all the years of enjoying coffee, I started drinking instant coffee and I graduated to brewed coffee but lots of milk and lots of sugar. And then when Starbucks showed up in my life, I was still drinking, latte'd sugary drinks. And then, fast forward to many years later and I'm drinking espresso and little cortados with no sugar and enjoying, coffee for its purity. But when I go over the border to Canada, to my homeland, I'm sorry, but I turn into it just gets dumbed down, and I have to order, and I'm sadly I'll be promoting Tim Hortons Double Double because it's a brewed coffee full of milk and sugar, and I just can't not drink it. And maybe
my mom will be a big proponent of what you just said. So
yeah, and it's bad because there's so many great coffee shops, but I'm okay with it. So I'm not a snob. I enjoy coffee, so I enjoy as many great, proper drinks with good beans and everything. But I'll also enjoy coffee in its form that it got me to where I am today, which is some milk and sugar. Not very often, but I do slip, and I'll have that. So I don't think that's a snob.
No, Ray, does that mean that you go to Dunkin' Donuts, or are you kind of like, nah, man?
You know what? Because of my wife. My wife loves it. She'll go get an iced coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, try this. I'm like, you know what? It's not that bad. So every once in a while, I will get a dark roast at Dunkin' Donuts in the airport. If it's
as long as you're, whatever it's everyone's individual thing. So it doesn't really matter where they get it, as long as they're drinking it, which is the key thing here.
And I'm not by any means a snob. I'm kind of like Fitz. I don't really. I will go back and I love great coffee. Trust me. Like I will search long and high for it. But there's sometimes you just need to have it, and I'll pop in a Keurig. We finally got rid of our Keurig machine, but we did have one. Our house was pretty ridiculous because we have this brand new house in Franklin, Tennessee, and it's like people know this area. Like everything's like high ceilings, and there's just these big weird rooms everywhere. Just people have like a lot of rooms here, so there's this hallway that I designated to coffee and wine only. So, and when you go in this, there's literally 3 sizes of French presses sitting there. There's a Chemex glass vase that's sitting there. There's a Keurig. There's a Mr. Coffee. There's I don't even know what this thing is. I don't even know. I should take a picture and send it to you guys. You probably know.
Maybe it's a coffee siphon.
Yeah, it is some kind of siphon, some kind of thing.
Because if it needs like a Bunsen burner thing on the bottom,
that's what. Yeah, because Gersey was telling me, but he has one at his place. Did you see that, darling? Did you see it?
Yeah, he told me about it. I haven't seen it yet, but my real question is, how far away is Franklin, Tennessee, from Jacksonville, Florida? Because I'm about to get on a plane.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you're always invited.
I think you got a siphon at your house. That thing looks like a meth lab, but it's a great blend of maybe a stovetop version and like an Italian stovetop and a French press. I think it's pretty smooth. When I might be I think I'm speaking right about how a siphon brews and tastes. But if you have one of those, you should get on that. That's great too.
You kind of nailed it. The latter part of what you were saying about the old percolator thing, because there's a little thing that shoots up, and it's like the old school. I remember my parents, when I was growing up, had one of these on the stove where you boiled the water and it shot the coffee through the top. It's got that vibe to it. as well. So,
that's a perfect version too. But it's just, I always say when you wake up in the morning, you're half asleep, and all you have to do is boil a kettle and put some beans in a French press. Like that's the easiest, fastest way to get yourself up and running for a good cup of coffee. And but the Italian stovetop version, I think, flavor wise, is one notch up from that. But that's a little more prep time. So sometimes I'm like, if I want to shave 5 minutes off that and I want to get into it quick, I do the French press. And the worst thing you can do is, because within a minute you're drinking coffee, is the Keurig. And that's the lure to the Keurig, I think, is the convenience of, I just press the button and I have a coffee.
Absolutely.
But the experience is not there for me.
Not at all.
Not the
flavor. Best part about this chat, gents, is that it's going to go out and people are like, oh man, Ray and Fitz, they're going to be on there talking about cymbals and snare drums and kick drums and what do they use it for a pedal? And they're like, what the hell are they talking about right now? I don't even drink coffee. So to our listeners tuning in for Drummer Talk, that'll be on Fitz's podcast. So that's going to be on the Drumming with Fitz podcast, I guess, because we're talking coffee here, friends.
He's like 14-inch hi-hats are better. No, 15-inch hi-hats are better. None of that.
Well, no, it's going from there. So both of you have new records out. Ray, you've got 2 that dropped on the same day. And on the same day, Fitzy just put out the new Toque record and just finished up the cycle with Slash. So let's go with this. Ray, talk a little bit about the brand new Korn record, the brand new KXM record, and then how that was how all came together, and some of your favorite bits about that.
Yeah, super proud of it's called The Nothing, and it's out right now on all formats. And Nick Raskulinecz, who I'm a huge fan of, he did our last record, Serenity of Suffering, as well. He's just a passionate mofo. That guy, he's rocking out with a broomstick while I'm doing drum tracks, and I love the guy, man. He's just, a lot of producers walk in with their white khaki pants and they sit down with their clipboards and they're, it's just, he's a fan, he's a huge fan of, there's a reason why the last 3 Alice in Chains, the last 2 Deftones, the last 2 Rush, he's done so many records in it. I remember listening to the new Alice in Chains when it first come out with William singing and going, wow, this sounds amazing. And produced by Nick Raskulinecz. Then I heard Snakes and Arrows Rush album. I'm like, wow, this sounds so fresh. And I looked down, Nick Raskulinecz. So there's something about that dude, we just really jive with him well. And so really stoked to have him back on board. Everyone knows that Jonathan Davis went through a really traumatic time. We all did last year with the passing of his wife. So it's a very heavy vocal record. Of course, there's tons of emotion, and it's emotionally draining, but in a great way. He really, I've never heard the guy sound so good on any Korn record, in my opinion, and so just if you mix all those emotions with good vibes, we didn't rush anything this time. We really took our time, lived with stuff, come back a couple weeks later, had 25 tunes and shaved it down to 13, which is, as you know, Fitz, it's rough. Sometimes you get married to these songs and
oh gosh, yeah.
You don't want to can anything. You're like, you can't get rid of that. That's amazing. But maybe someone in a band wasn't feeling it or wasn't jiving. So I'm really super stoked on the new Korn. KXM's people that don't know, it's George Lynch, the famous guitar player from Dokken and Lynch Mob and a ton of other. He's just one of those guitar heroes from back in the day. He still sounds better than ever. Doug Pinnick from the band King's X. I'm always a huge fan of like super heavy riffs with beautiful melodies and harmonies over top of it. And King's X, in my opinion, should have been bigger than the Beatles, but that's just me. And I always said before I died, I wanted to be in a band with Doug, and here we are on our 3rd record with Lynch, and we just have a really good time. We haven't done any live shows yet. We're threatening to do some soon on this next break, so we're trying to put it together. But we did a ton of like really funny, crazy videos. So if you go on YouTube, just type in KXM and check out the new Korn videos as well.
Oh, the record sounds really great, man. And it was a pleasure being out there on tour with you, watching you play these songs every night. And it was just the energy that was coming around the release of a new album and being out there on tour. And it's kind of interesting because, well, it's very interesting, not kind of, the fact that it was an Alice in Chains Korn tour and everyone was a fan of everyone. That doesn't always happen. Under Oath was on it. We had some, Fever. We had Horror on it. We had so many bands and everyone was a fan of everyone. And that's a rare occasion when that happens. But it was, Ray was out, watching Alice in Chains every single night.
That's the only, and that's the only tour I've ever done that with. I mean, because let's face it, even from Slipknot to Disturbed to Zombie, whoever we're on the road with, we're all buddies and we all respect each other's music and we like each other. But after a while, you're like, okay, I said this is the part of the show when they do this. This is the part. Okay, I'm going to go to my bus now, and I'm going to, it's you kind of get, not that you're over it, it's the same thing every night. And but in these new towns, obviously, as Fitz, you're playing for these people that may have never seen you before, so you got to give it all you got. But there was something about Chains, man, that I just couldn't resist watching. At least 4 to 5 tunes. I'd go to front of house. I'd watch on Cantrell's side. I had to watch them.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure to be a part of that and see that every single night. Fitzy, you just finished up the Slash cycle, or at least for now. I'm sure you guys are going to play 1,000 more shows coming up. And the new Toque record, what's going on there with both?
Well, what's great is we never say that, I just played a whole year with Slash, and then our singer, Miles Kennedy, is off to do his other band, Alter Bridge, and Slash is doing his other little band, Guns N' Roses. And then my other little band with Todd Kearns from the Slash band, which we appropriately call in a very Canadian way, Toque, has, stuff going on too. So we all never say bye. We're just like, oh, see you in a little bit, when everybody goes and does their other bands. And it's almost like the new norm is to have a couple outlets to be, expressive as a musician. And Ray, you have a couple bands, and sometimes having that always going on always keeps things fresh and keeps your playing up and your chops. And I love, having various set lists in my head that I put into the forefront, and then you delete it for the next, oh, I'm doing another gig with this band. And I like, having the variety. So after being out with Slash on our last record, Living the Dream and the Living the Dream tour, I went right into the Toque mode, which is I switched instruments and I went from, drumming around the world to now I'm on bass, and it's a whole different animal, but it's great. And, we put a new record out, we slipped that into the, after the Slash tour ended, we actually made a record around the same time we were doing the Slash record, and we just found a little bit of time in between recording in LA, because it's very consuming to make a record, as Ray. You're putting a lot of mental time into making something great that's going to last a lifetime, making a recording. So sure. We spent so much time on the Slash record, and then we still put some time in here and there to, well, let's finish up, we have some time to do some Toque stuff, and every little chance we had to record we did until we had a full record. And so we just thought, well, we'll wait until the end of the Slash cycle and we'll have some time and we'll focus back on that. So that's exactly what happened. My eye fell apart. I had a detached retina. I had to cut the tour early myself, but soon as I was functioning again, we went out and did a CD release a couple of weeks ago in Canada for the album, and we put out a new an original song, because the band actually came out as a fun, more or less. We did it just, it was a bunch of us from different bands. Our friend Corey Churko, who's actually Shania Twain's musical director for over 20 years. We all grew up in the same small cities up in Canada. And Shane Gallus, as you know, our drummer, is from Alberta. And we all ended up in the States. We ended up in California and Vegas. And we just, for fun, put a band together. Sometimes you just do it because you're like, well, I love these guys. I want to put music. Just like I'm so jealous that Ray has a band with Doug Pinnick, because Doug is one of my favorite musicians of all time. I think I bowed to him once when I met him. And we did the Kiss cruise a few years back with King's X. And what's funny is the entire boat, including the Kiss members, everybody watched King's X. And I was playing with Brad Whitford from Aerosmith at the time on the boat. And we all just were in awe of Doug. So, those are the kind of people you want to put bands together with. So, yeah, my Toque band is a fun band with my best friends and my favorite musicians. And so we have a new single and a new video, and it's an original song. So it's the first time we did that. And we're just having, a good time putting out new music. And it's just great to have, I could honestly say I'm doing the best at what I'm supposed to be doing, which is, make music and make a living and have fun. I'm doing it now. I never, 20 years ago, I met Ray. We met each other, or maybe you don't remember, but I think I saw you play with Eric Sardinas at the NAMM show. Does that sound right? In 96, were you playing with Eric Sardinas?
I never played with him.
Okay, no, it wasn't Eric, but he was on a stage, and then you played with somebody else, either Sun Red Sun or something.
It was Billy Sheehan and
it was Billy. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I saw you in the Hilton or something play. Does that sound right? But anyway, I just remember there was a bunch of musicians. I was like, it was sensory overload for me, seeing. I went to the NAMM. That was my first time there in '96, and I had never even been to California. But I saw you play then, and I just think now, to all these years doing this, playing music, and I think I'm doing my best work now.
I was as you're talking, I'm starting to think and going like, how lucky are we to still be doing this for a living? And you know what I mean? There's I have virtuoso guitar player buddies working at, jobs they really don't want to do. And I'm listening to your story and I'm like, man, you're so awesome and lucky to be able to do this. And as am I, and it's an awesome thing to still be. I remember when I turned 40, I'm like, oh crap, now what am I going to do? And now I'm 49 and I feel the same way. These last 2 records I just put out are some of my best, I think probably the best work, and that's a great feeling.
We're both the same age. So we both probably have a lot of the same influences, the same career path of, small town kids. You kind of like graduate from playing in local bands to, and then, both of us had the naivety, and which I think is a bit, like ballsy, to go to LA, go to the big city and try your, get into a bigger pool of talented musicians to like, sort of put you in your place but fuel you and get you out of your comfort zone. And like I said, when I first saw you, I had never been to LA and I was like, who is this guy? And it was like kind of like, inspiring and influential. I was like, wow, there's a lot of great drummers around here in LA. So
who's this Amish pig farmer?
No, man, it was like right away I knew I better get my chops up. And it's cool that you went to school and you went to you went to school and taught, correct? Well,
that was, there was an excuse. I mean, I grew up on a 118-acre farm in the middle of nowhere outside of Pittsburgh, small town.
So you were supposed to be a farmer.
Well, I mean, dude, if my guitar player at that time, had he not talked me out of it, who knows? My sister owns a 300 animal zoo in Smithton, Pennsylvania. I might be working at that zoo right now if it hadn't been for him, because you never know. It's like he's like, dude, we got to go to LA, and I'm like, we're 18. We live in Pittsburgh. Let's just go to New York. It's right here. It's like, no, man, everybody's doing it in LA. We need to get out there. Well, the big excuse is like, let's go to MI. I have a ton to learn. I know that. I was just a rock metalhead playing the Kiss records and Ozzy growing up. It's like I needed to learn. So moved out there and man, I got my ass kicked because I thought I was kind of hot shit off the farm, and little I knew nothing. I had a good heart and spirit about it, but when I went to MI, I was like, man, I don't know what jazz is and Latin, and I've still struggled with a lot of, you never really get that stuff down. You just learn more and build your vocabulary, but they didn't have a rock program, and I was always bitching about it. So they called me in about 2 years later and said, if you write a rock curriculum, we'll hire you for to teach here. So that's how the whole thing went. I was like, I'm 22. I'm not going to teach at some music school. But I wrote some really basic rock classes, and that 3 hours led to 33 hours. But then I started touring too much with Jakey Lee and David Lee Roth, and the sub was there more than me. So I just ended up stopping,
Yeah, that's so cool. Let's remember, you played with David Lee Roth. Come on.
That's right. That's where I first met.
Let me tell you something, Fitz. You keep it up, man. Your career's gonna be okay, buddy.
Oh man, I mean, Van Halen, Kiss, those were like basically my 2 bands from the late 70s. The first Van Halen record right through to, I saw the 84 tour, and I remember I was just like, I was the very back last seat in the place, and I was 14 years old when I saw that tour. But when Dave came out and did the splits, I mean, I just was like, that was life changing.
Yeah. I mean, it's surreal to me because he's been hanging on that poster of him from the US Festival has been hanging on my wall since I was probably 12 or 13. And then being, I just remember sitting in my underwear on the farm trying to play Hot for Teacher, going like, why can't I play this? And then next thing you know, I'm in the band opening with it every night with David Lee Roth. And there wasn't one night that went by that I didn't look out and go, that's freaking David Lee Roth. Like,
dude, it's just careful what you wish for. Wow.
You don't get used to that, man. And that was 97 to 05. I was in 8 years, it was crazy.
That's where I first met you, right? It was in Casino Rama, Orillia, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah.
David Lee Roth was, I think we have a mutual friend, Darren from the Salads out of Toronto.
Nice.
So that was an experience that night too. And I don't know if David Lee Roth ever walked off stage with you. I know Fitzy, you played with Vince Neil a lot, and he used to do that. So that was actually a show where David played the whole show. I was pretty excited about that at the time. But
hey, Dave's doing a residency here in Vegas. I'm pretty excited.
I heard about that.
He is.
Everybody's doing a residency in Vegas.
Are you playing drums for that, Fitz?
No, but if my phone rings, I might have to at least entertain the call.
Thanks for the time, gents. We're rolling here, Ray. I know you got to get on to your thing. You're heading off to Japan. So I just wanted to say, hey, fellas, thanks. You got two Brents and a Ray, all of us on a different journey, but it's all kind of collectively the same. You guys doing some of your best work now. We're all on here talking coffee and rock, and I'm launching a brand new podcast, and I can't thank you enough for helping me be a part of that and sort of exploring that world. Coffee has become this connector in life. And Fitzy, you like to connect the dots, and you've been connecting the dots on coffee for as long as I've known you. And one of the first things you told me when I was going to go out on that Korn Alice in Chains tour was like, oh, Ray, make sure you meet Ray. Great guy, loves coffee. And that sort of started the whole train, and here we are. So before I let you guys get out of here, one last bit on the socials. Tell me where everyone can find you, and we'll get going.
Well, mine's Ray Luzier Korn on Instagram, Ray Luzier 1 on Twitter, and just have a fan page, Ray Luzier on Facebook.
Awesome. Fitzy?
Yeah, I'm not hidden. I'm on Instagram as myself. I'm on Facebook as myself, and BrentFitz.com. Aren't we all .com?
Yeah.
And ToqueRocks.ca. There you go.
Nice. KXM, Korn, Toque, /rock, whatever it is, and coffee.
David Lee Roth.
So much. There's so much content between my two guests this week, and this conversation, I'm sure, could continue for 2 more hours. Oh, yeah. But my friends, I can't thank you enough for the time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll all get together at a cafe. Actually, I'm not even going to go. We're not going to a cafe. We're coming to Franklin, and we're coming into your cafe, Ray.
We're going to fire up your Chemex and the well, yeah, just whatever you got for us, we're coming over. We'll bring some beans.
We need a Korn show, Korn/show in Tennessee with the pre-coffee party at Ray's house.
Sounds great.
Sounds like
it's on.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the time. Here's some brand new KXM. Here's some brand new Toque. Thanks for joining me this week on the Brenton on Tour podcast.
Thank you.
Great conversation, guys. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Full blown.
And that's a wrap. Part 2 in the books, episode 9, which means episode 10 next week. Huge thanks to Ray and Brent for giving me the time to chat rock, music, touring, coffee, all the great stuff. Make sure you follow them all online. New albums from KXM, Toque, Korn. Check out some Slash with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. Great stuff, all of it. Huge thanks to Aspen, Ray's wife, for jumping on board at the beginning of these 2 episodes to talk about her cause, Rebel for a Change. Make sure you check that out online as well. Episode 10, next week. Last chance to win yourself a brand new Leverpresso from leverpresso.com. Like, share, join me everywhere. The road to 1,000 subscribers continues. Thanks, friends.